The element of trust between you and your horse is monumental. They would literally jump off a cliff if you asked them. It's a huge responsibility.
Eventing is definitely not for the faint-hearted. It's one of the hardest sports in the sense that it takes a lot of discipline. You've got the dressage, which is the first day of competition. And then you have the cross-country, which is like a marathon for them over fences. And then your final day is the show jumping.
Of course, coming off the confidence of having jumped so well earlier on with Trader.
My name's Margaret McIntosh, but all of my horse friends for most of my life have called me Gigi.
Yes, she had talent, but I've seen lots of people with talent that didn't have the conviction and the devotion to the sport and to the detail, and Gigi had all of that.
I started to ride when I was 7. I was always happiest riding across country. I started to ride with Bruce after my second child was born in 1987, and continued to ride up through the ranks through the 3- and 4-star level in 1997 and 1998.
Bruce is a hard taskmaster. You know, he gets the best out of people. And I think probably she would say that, you know, working with him during that phase of her life when she was a very active rider was, you know, the best of the best.
I had bought this beautiful young horse named Fred. The thing that I loved about him was that we galloped through knee-deep mud and he jumped everything that was in front of him. The first competition that we did in the spring was a local pony club event. 2 weeks later came the event at Morven Park. I had moved Fred up to intermediate. Some of the jumps were a little bit higher than they had been at preliminary, but it was not appreciably more difficult. This horse is a little bit green, you know, for what we're doing here. When we came to a formidable ramp jump, unfortunately, Fred stood off, and I asked him to stand off way too far from this jump. His front end cleared the jump, but his back legs were caught on the top of the jump like a rabbit in a snare, and it just grabbed his feet. So he fell on his shoulder. My chin hit the ground with a lot of force, and the next thing I knew, I was lying there and Fred had run away and I couldn't get up.
I didn't see it. I was in the warm-up area, and I knew there was a hold on course. I didn't realize exactly what the hold was, and when they told me, I jumped off and went out to where the accident was and saw Gigi at that point.
It was a bad fall. You know, you always think of how bad is it going to be. It's when you ride, it's not if you're going to get hurt, it's when and how bad.
Well, that's the phone call you always dread getting. Mary Hazzard called me and said Gigi's had an accident and she has a pretty good neck injury. That's what she said. But we didn't know any more than that.
You know, she was so bad in the beginning. You were fearful that she was just going to be bedridden for the rest of her life.
You know, they told us the diagnosis is incomplete quadriplegia, and some people do die in the first week to 10 days.
They realized that I had broken one bone in my neck. It was my C6 vertebra. I was so afraid that if I started to cry, I wouldn't stop. I knew I wouldn't ride the way I had been riding. I knew that that wasn't an option. And a little bit in my mindset at that point was, you know, what's the point if I can't, if I can't enjoy riding the way I had been. A friend of mine, Jane Corey, ran the court center for therapeutic riding. She had the perfect horses to start on. She walked next to me when I first got on the horse.
It was quite a moving time for us, you know, because to see her back on a horse again was amazing.
She was so determined that, you know, I think, and that determination is what has brought her as far as she is today.
Another of her good friends, Jan Smith, an attorney, she actually gave one of her horses to Gigi and said, you know, you take care of it, you maintain it, but it's yours for as long as you want it, and that's Hobbs.
He and Gigi just hit it off, and it was wonderful. I guess it's, you know, I mean, to be a 3-day event horse, they're a little bit aggressive, you know. They have to be fit, they have to take on the job, they have to take on their jumps, and then to watch him just be such a nice guy and you know, stand still for Gigi getting on, and it just brought tears to my eyes to watch him, to be honest with you.
I got the competitive bug to do some small local shows, and Jane Corey was still helping me and still coaching, and at that point I had a really hard time controlling my legs. I had not yet tied my stirrups to the girth because I thought I should be strong enough so that I could ride like an able-bodied person. I wasn't ready to make that commitment to being a disabled rider. When I started to compete, Jane Corey said to me, I think you need to go talk to Missy Ransehousen, who was then the coach of the Paralympic team.
Blue Hill Farm is a training facility, full training only. We take in clients who are event riders, who are dressage riders, and who are also para-equestrian riders. My mother and I both run the farm together. She being a 3-time Olympic dressage rider, and myself, I've done the Pan American Games for eventing.
Gigi has such determination and such a real will to do well. And those things put together, I think there's a great harmony between her and the horse, and I think it's gonna go in the right direction.
Missy and Jessica put me right into their program with the idea of maybe trying to get to London, to the Olympics in 2012.
And now we're talking about, you know, the Olympics, the London Olympics. And I thought, how in holy hell did we get from, you know, tame riding in Travelda to this?
I really wanted to make it work with Hobbs, having been a retired event horse and as a retired event rider. But Hobbs' big downfall was that he didn't have a very good walk. I saw Rio on the internet and I said to Missy, what do you think about this one? We went out and rode her and liked her and brought the video back for Jessica's approval.
This horse is wonderful. We've now had this horse long enough to be able to say truly that this horse has a heart of gold.
Some of the international para riders are famous. They're riders that I've read about and watched videos of for years. When I saw Peppo Pooch out there riding, winning his division, I decided that if it was okay for him, I could do it as well. And that was when I really determined to try to go to the World Equestrian Games and to be taken seriously as a para rider. I actually felt very much at home at the first show, I was pleased to feel that I really did belong there. The atmosphere was wonderful. I had a great horse. I was living the dream.
Before she was hurt, she very easily would not have gone to the Olympics, but this time I think she will.
Although she has made a tremendous recovery against the odds and way beyond what is expected, I do see some deterioration, in her walking and so forth. We're reaching a point now, I think, where if she can achieve her goals within the next 2 to 3 years, that will be perfect.
The fork in the road was a pretty difficult fork, but she's conquered it. So it doesn't matter that Gigi's changed her direction. She's still at the top of the game.